Welcome, everybody. My name is Wilson Alvarez with MiamiBusiness.com, and I'd like to thank community newspapers Grant Miller and Michael Miller for allowing us to videotape this session here. Today, I have the pleasure of being with Mr. Ken Delisi. He's a family man, teacher, influencer, and it's a pleasure to be with him here today. Ken, how are you?
How you doing, Wilson?
Good, good, good. So tell me a little bit about you. Like, who is Ken Delisi?
Well, I'm married 23 years, going on 24. Have two children. My daughter's 22 and my son is 19.
Nice.
I've been here my whole life. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, Kendall for the most part. And I went away to college, Tallahassee, for a couple of years. And
What high school did you go to? Let's start off with that.
I went to Miami Sunset.
Miami Sunset.
Senior.
Class of?
Class of 87.
Fun. Class of 87. Don't feel bad. I'm class of 84. South
All right,
Miami.
yeah.
But anyways, it's so you went to so Sunset what are they? Sunset
Nights.
Sunset Nights. Okay.
Where'd you go again, you said?
I went to South Miami. South Miami Cobras.
Okay.
So high school. Talk to me about your high school years. Where I don't want to talk about my high school years, so I want to talk about your high school years. So tell me a little bit about that.
Not much to say about high school. It was a lot of fun. A number of friends that I still keep in contact with today. Just a fun experience. It wasn't really about academics for me.
Okay. I understand. So, you being a pastor now, did you feel God's presence back then? Did you feel Him talk to you back then at all, or?
Not really. No, I really didn't. In fact, I had a grandmother. This is a great story, by the way. My grandmother lived with us for 17 years before she passed. And probably the greatest faith I've ever seen, and probably the greatest faith I'll ever see in a person. So my grandmother's life was for 17 years in the morning, waking up, praying on her knees, then in her Bible reading throughout the day, then singing her alabanzas in Spanish, which I still remember. Oh. Then back in her Bible in the middle of the day, probably making dinner, watching a little bit of news, but then back in the Bible again after dinner, and then at the end of the night on her hands and knees praying. 17 years, never anything different. So it's surprising that I didn't have faith early on after seeing that, but no, my faith didn't come till later on in life.
But the hand of God was in you, obviously, and it was evident that it was probably her prayers that kept you safe, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure, the whole family.
Yeah. So, so you mentioned grad school. What did you major in?
So I did my master's in sociology at Ithaca College, and probably there 2.5 years, and then came back to that was my undergrad. Sociology was in Ithaca, was my undergrad, and I came back to Miami to do my master's at FIU in special education. Any
God stories in Ithaca?
It's interesting you asked that because I came to faith in Ithaca and I can't remember the story. So it's like I have a lot of God stories throughout the last 30 years that I've been in this Christian walk, but I can't remember the main one that turned my life around and turned me forward, towards God. I can't remember it, but I know it's profound, but I remember all these other stories.
So when you came to Miami, where did you go to school here in Miami?
Sunset.
No, I'm sorry. After Ithaca, you went to
FIU to do my master's.
FIU, right. So you came back to Miami, and there you majored in?
Special education.
Okay. So which is the reason why you're a teacher now?
Right.
Okay.
I graduated in 2000 and began at Snapper Creek Elementary, and I was there for about 18 years.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So while you were at FIU, any God moments there?
Wow. FIU. I mean, there was this one specific time, it wasn't really at FIU, but I was going to golf with a couple of my friends, and we were going to have breakfast at a restaurant there on Sunset and 97th, and these guys, I used to party with them back in the day, and they asked me if I wanted to smoke, and I said, no, I'm good. I'm not doing that anymore. I have God in my life now. And I'm sitting in the backseat of the car, and my friend in the front says, oh, what do you mean you got God in your life? You're going to preach to us now? And I said, no, I'm just saying I'm not smoking anymore. I got God in my life, and that's it. And he's like, oh, come on, put away the Bible. We want to hear about that. And I'm like, okay, dude, I'm just saying I'm not smoking, you know? And he says, anyway, if God's real, a bird will crap on the window right now. And he looks around, and he's like, you see, nothing. And I'm like, okay, I'm not saying anything. So we go in the restaurant. When we come out half hour later, the car's covered. And I say covered, like the car on this side had nothing, the car on this side had nothing. We're not under an overhang or a tree, and there's at least 80 splotches. Windshield, driver's side window, passenger window, crushed. And we come out and we're just staring at the car. And there's dead silence. We get in the car, they both look at each other, they look back at me. And I say to my friend, I say, that may be the only sign you ever get. And we drove from there to the Redlands golf course. And nobody said a word, 40-minute drive.
Wow. Well, you obviously impacted their life at that moment, regardless if they received it or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
But that's a great story. So give me the story of how you became a believer. I know that you heard your grandma pray. You had that moment, obviously, with the windshield and your buddies. But when was the actual turning point, and how did that happen?
I believe it was at my parents' house. And I remember just going through a lot of turmoil, you know, going through that party lifestyle in a really toxic relationship, and just thinking I was losing it. And at that point, because of my grandmother's faith, my parents, my sisters, they were all believers. I was the only one not following after Christ. And I got on my knees. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just remember them saying, pray, pray, pray. So at night, I got on my knees. I said, God, if you're out there, if you are who they say you are, come into my life, change me from within, take all the partying away from me, you know, just change me. And the next day, it was the girlfriend at the time where she would like do anything for me in the world. She broke up with me. It was like that quick. And I was like, I don't know if to be sad or, you know, just maybe bask in this profound moment that God came through time and space to answer this prayer that I did on my knees. And within 6 months, my life was changed. I was not going down the party lifestyle anymore. I was just focused on God, and everything changed.
That's awesome. How long have you been walking with Christ? Like, how long has it been?
Let's see, it's probably been about 30 years.
Nice.
It's been about 30 years now.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's been a great walk.
You know, there's peaks and valleys.
That's the right answer.
Thanks.
Because,
yes.
you know, no, that's the right answer because, you know, and I'm speaking for myself, you know, the moment you receive, you know, you go through challenges, and that's God sharpening us, you know, refiner's fire, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Right. So, so I totally understand that. So let's talk about LTL, and what does LTL mean? And tell me this beautiful story.
So LTL actually goes back to my teaching years, where I had a student named Randy Boza. And Randy Boza was the worst student. Randy Boza never did homework. Randy Boza failed every test, but Randy Boza, I loved Randy Boza. And the story kind of starts out with Channel 10 News coming out to my school to surprise me with Diane Magnum's Magnum Force. And she starts our faculty meeting and says, there's a teacher here who changed a student's life. He changed the whole family. And my former student, Randy Boza, comes out of the back room, and my whole family comes out of a back room, and they all surprise me. And Diane Magnum says, Ken Delisi, tell me about The Rock. So I said, wow, The Rock. I said, well, I had Randy Boza back in elementary school, because now at the time of the interview, he's in middle school. And I said, Randy, what are you going to do when you go to middle school? You're going to have 6 teachers. Mr. D's not going to be there. And he said, I don't know. I don't really care. I said, are you going to drop out? He said, probably. And I said, what do you like to do? He said, I like to throw the rock. I like to throw the baseball. Sorry. I like to throw the baseball. And so I said, great, go tell your parents to put you in a league. So he goes home, comes back the next day. It's not happening, Mr. D. My parents said no. And I encouraged him and said, Randy, listen, tell your parents you promise to raise your grades if they put you in a baseball league. So he comes back the next day, Mr. D, I'm in. He gets all excited. I'm in. I'm starting on the weekend. And I look at Diane Magnum and I say, what happens next in the story is a God thing, because I can't take credit for it. And she said, what happened? I said, Randy, let's take a walk. And we walk out to the PE field. And I said, Randy, pick up a rock. He picks up a rock. I said, the rock you're holding represents the best baseball player that ever lived. Give it back to me when you win the World Series. And the kid, like, really believed it. He hugged me. He took off to middle school, and I came back a couple of years later in the hallway at my school on early release. He and his father handed me a ball in a glass case, and he became a phenom. And his dad said, no, I said, Mr. Boza, I don't understand. And his dad said, no, Mr. Delisi, I don't understand. I never threw a baseball with my son. So the kid became a phenom. And so what happens is that kid's life has changed. And about 2 years later, I think I'm in bed at about 2 a.m. It was like that still small voice saying, one word changed Randy Boza's life on that PE field. You can do more. And it was like, whoa, what was that? Right. And I looked at my wife and I woke her up and she thought I was crazy. But I said, we're going to do a youth ministry. One word changed Randy Boza's life. So I went over to the pastor next door to my school and asked him if we can use his sanctuary. And he said yes. And he gave me the keys, and Living the Legacy, LTL, was started actually originally on a Wednesday night, but then we met every Friday night for about 3.5 years.
That's awesome. And I remember experiencing those moments with the youth, and you delivering the word and them being engaged. I don't think I've ever seen so many, I don't want to call them kids, but young adults be engaged in the way that they were. So what happened to Living the Legacy?
So we basically stopped in 2012.
Any reason why it stopped, or was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was getting a little bit crazy. Sometimes we'd have 100 kids coming out on Friday night and not too much adult involvement. And it was getting to be pretty heavy, There was a lot of responsibility. A new guy came in to take over the church also, and it didn't seem like he was too happy with us being there, maybe because our congregation was 3 times his. I have no idea why he was mad. And he raised our rent like 4 times.
Oh, okay.
And that was very difficult because, if we're going to take a collection at all on a Friday night with these youth, we're going to collect $8.43.
That's correct.
So we stopped 2012.
Yeah. Well, God does everything for a reason. And sometimes we can't explain it. But so what happened after that?
So fast forward to this year, actually. By the way, all along, my kids and the cousins saying, hey, when are you going to do LTL again? We love it. We got to do this again. And every year I tell them, yeah, we're going to do it this year. All excited, yeah, I'm pumped. We're going to do it. And sure enough, nothing happens, so they get tired of hearing it.
Yeah. So you were like, there was like a 5-year hiatus, or 8 years, or how long?
About 11.
11. Okay.
11 years.
And in those 11 years, interaction with your congregation, let's call them. What was that present, or everybody went their own separate ways?
I kept in contact with a number of them through social media.
Right.
But these guys were unchurched young people for the most part,
Right.
So the church they got was at LTL on Friday nights.
Right.
I believe most of the families they were coming from were not walking the walk. So yeah, they scattered, which stayed in my heart for these last 11 years. And the turning point was this year, getting a text message from one of my former youth asking if I saw on social media that one of my young people died of drug overdose. And so that kind of crushed me, because I looked and saw the post of his obituary, and I sat in my truck and cried probably for like 20, 30 minutes, like never before in my life. And because this young man, 11, 12 years ago, or 13 years ago, when we started, he was on fire for God. This guy would run from his house 2 miles to get to the service on a Friday night. And coming from a home where he didn't know his dad and just not a believing home, he wanted to know more about God. And he was there like clockwork every Friday night. Small groups that we had also on certain nights, he was there trying to learn the word, you know. And when I got this news, it was just devastating.
Yeah. I could imagine.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear that type of thing, but we know he's in a better place. He was attending church. I'm sure he did the sinner's prayer, baptism, etc. So if it wasn't because of you, LTL, you know, so
yeah, we actually did baptize him in Miami Beach.
There you go.
Which was super, which gave me a peace that, you know, he became a believer. He was baptized, and that he's walking the streets of gold today. Like you said, right. He's definitely in a better place. Which actually catapulted LTL today.
So tell me about that. Where is LTL right now?
So after that experience, I think for the first time in 11 years, when I told my family LTL starting again, we are going to begin again, I knew that this is happening again. I had certain friends, such as yourself as well, you know, tell me, yeah, what are you waiting for? You need to move forward, right? And I let the family know this is what's happening. We set a date, and we move forward. In September 1st this year, we started living the legacy again on Friday nights.
Great. Tell me where you're meeting and the time, and tell me what's happening with that.
So we rent a small chapel from Wayside Baptist Church. The location is 7701 Southwest 98th Street.
Okay.
And we meet in the West Chapel on the west side of the building. 7:15 is our starting time, more or less. I say it's usually 7:30, but Cuban time, you know, we got to tell people 7:15. And we go to about 8:30.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I've attended. The message is on point, and it's very efficient as well. So I want to encourage you to move forward and keep doing this. And however I can help, I'd love to help. And I'm sure there's others that would love to do the same. You know, you have a great heart for the Lord. So let that serve as an encouragement to you that we're doing this for the kingdom.
Amen.
In reality, that's what we're doing.
Amen.
So, okay. So that was awesome.
Thank you.
So no, thank you. And we want to thank you for just being with us in this special moment with Pastor Ken Delisi. I encourage you to visit livingthelegacy.org, and we hope to see you soon.